should have been a cowboy. I should have learned to rope and ride.
And here we go. Another episode of Should Have Been a Cowboy podcast with Felipe and Cowboi Cole. But today, it is actually just Cowboi Cole. If you guys remember from our last episode, Felipe and I talked about how he is currently down in Brazil and he's headed over to the Patagonias, to the Argentinas of the world, of South America. He is hosting some trail rides, some backcountry trail rides down there. Super jealous, but he is living the dream from the back of a horse. And so Cowboi Cole's doing a solo episode today, and I'm really, really excited for the guest that I have on hand because it's somebody who has walked a path of life that I really don't know a whole lot about outside of consuming what Hollywood has showed me and obviously doing my own research and watching documentaries that have come out now and whatnot. But today I'm interviewing a man by the name of Jeremiah Wilber, who put 20 years in the U.S. Army. Took it all the way to the ranks of being a Green Beret, hardcore stuff. Stuff that I don't really know a whole lot about, and now he's converted it into a passion of helping other people with the War Party Ranch organization, co-founder of that, a nonprofit helping women in bad situations learn some life skills, a place to go work, kind of get their feet back underneath them. So I'm really excited to talk to Jeremiah today. So let's get to it. Rocking the Elmer Fudd hat. It must be cold.
Yeah, it is pretty cold today. Probably not cold to you. It's probably like a balmy day for you. It's like 5 degrees. So,
dude, you're gonna kill me when I say this, but it's a cold day in Arizona this morning. Cloud coverage, no sunshine, cold breeze. It's what we would call in the desert a winter day.
oh yeah. Well, the desert gets cold. A lot of people underestimate how cold the dang desert gets.
Dude, I know, and I can tell in my hands right away. I don't know what it was. I guess just being a kid growing up in Alberta, but the first thing to go on me now is my hands. Like I lose circulation, my fingers start to turn white, they get freaking stiff, and I'm like, God dang it, dude! All those hard days up at home in the winter.
Oh yeah, for sure. It'll do it to you.
Well, thanks for hopping on with me. I know you're
man.
a busy man. You got a lot going on, and I'm really excited to talk to you because I've heard a lot about you. I've seen a lot of your stuff, but we haven't had the opportunity to meet or have a bullshit yet.
Yes,
so
sir.
Thanks for hopping on with me. Jeremiah Wilber, tell us a little bit about where you are currently.
So currently, I live in Colorado, and I'm the founder of War Party Movement and the co-founder of War Party Ranch. And basically what those are, War Party Movement, I started that out working anti-human trafficking, mostly with Native American women. And then War Party Ranch was kind of a spinoff of that, just looking at a bigger need, trying to provide women with a lot of warrior skills to be able to either, prevent them from being in those kind of situations, domestic violence or abusive situations, all the way to working with women who, are recovering from being trafficked or in abusive situations. Super cool. Lots of really rad ladies that have, helped me along this journey, and really excited to continue to keep moving forward with it.
Man, that's huge because you're talking about a world that I don't know anything about. I'm very naive. I grew up in Alberta, in Canada, in a great time to be growing up in our country. Not so much now, but I'm very naive to a lot of the real things that go on in this world. And so the fact that you've started this nonprofit to help women in these situations, human trafficking, things like that, dude, that's such a blur to me. Like, I feel like I only ever heard of that kind of stuff through movies, to be honest. So let's talk about kind of how you got into this, because you're a 20-year veteran in the U.S. Army, and you took that to the extreme. You went full Green Beret, man. So can you give me a little bit of rundown on how you chose that path, and like what is it like to day one to then get the invite to say, hey, do you want to come train to be a Green Beret?
Yeah. So, I think my journey as being a soldier, really started me as a kid, just how I was raised. My first part of my childhood up until just before high school, we lived in Montana, kind of all over Montana. And my dad was just a day working cowboy. And then when I was about 4 or 5, he put himself through college to become a nurse. So in his goal was he wanted to be a flight nurse. So he was, I was just around this like really tough, gritty environment from my father always being, hunting. We were always out hunting, fishing, always in the backcountry, and then my dad was also in the military. And then, I'm like on my dad's side, the only as far back as I could track it is World War One. So I'm like fourth generation, going to the army. So it was one of those things where it's like, I'm around all these warriors. And then my mother is Native, and just growing up in that environment, being around, the same, my uncles on her side, my grandfather, he won a Silver Star in the Marines in Korea.
Oh, was
So
he a
it's
wind
like,
talker?
no, he
Oh,
wasn't.
sorry. Okay.
No, he's Apache. He was a rifleman, infantry. It was actually a machine gunner when he was awarded that medal. Um, so just been around it, growing up, going to powwows and stuff. All the first guys that get to go dance and get honored are always the veterans, and there's all these old warriors, and so I think that culture, along with just the way the people I was around, were all these real salty, really gritty men, and then like that code of being a man and being a warrior was just kind of around everybody I grew up around, especially at a very young age. When I was like 3 or 4, you could ask me what I wanted to do, and I would have told you I was gonna, I want to be an airborne ranger. So, fast forward that, we moved to Las Vegas, actually, when I went to high school, and it was a crazy culture change for me, going from Montana to Las Vegas. But it was, I learned so much, and I really got, a lot of, I would say it taught me a lot of street smarts and street skills to just kind of grow up in that rough environment, and, a very gang related place. But at the same time, just, you know, really helped mold me and shape me for things that I would need in the future as far as some of those street smarts go. So that was really cool. And that's how I got the name, like the Ghetto Vaquero, because I grew up on the east side of Las Vegas. Most people would ever go to my side of town when they visit Las Vegas.
The Ghetto Vaquero. That is so badass.
So from right out of high school, I joined the Army, and I spent, like you said, I actually spent a total of 22 years. I first entered in the National Guard when I was in high school still. So those 2 years counted for pay, but not for my total time. My first about 7 years in the Army, I actually started out as I was in military police. And, not to get too deep in the story how that happened, but basically, when I joined the National Guard, there's only a couple of jobs available, and MPs was one of them. And it was kind of the one I thought was the coolest out of, versus being a mechanic or a truck driver or something else that they offered me, because the jobs are kind of where you're located in that state. So when I went active duty, I stayed being an MP. I had a great time, great experience, lots of good leadership. A couple of combat deployments there. One of them, a year-long deployment, I was a squad leader in Iraq. And then I became a drill sergeant. So, everybody sees the guy with the funny hat yelling at everybody. That was one of my most rewarding times in my military career. And it was just one of those things where it's just, those kids are what you make them. They're all going to units. At this time, I was a drill sergeant from 2007 to 2009. Every one of those kids is deploying to combat. You're trying to prepare them and get them ready, for worst case scenario. And so you're really trying to mold those kids and mentor them. It's a lot of the yelling and screaming and the crazy stuff that people see, but the reality is you really are guiding and molding them, and you're their first influence when they come into the military.
Yeah, that's something I never really, I guess, thought about, right? Like I thought you just showed up to boot camp, got yelled at, got tough, mentally, physically, everything like that. But no, at the end of the day, man, when you step out in front of that group of kids, you got to say something to them that might click into their brain in like heat of the moment 2 or 3 years down the road, right? Like whatever that may be.
Absolutely. And I look at, one of my a leadership thing I say all the time is about leadership is, no one cares what you've done in the past. It's about what you're doing right now. And that was very, very, it was so tangible when you're a drill sergeant, because you're getting a new branch, a batch of, 240 kids every, 19 weeks or whatever the cycles are. So just because you did something in your first cycle and you led by example and you're always out front, and just like you said, it's not necessarily always what you say to those kids, it's how you lead them, and you're showing them the way, you're setting the example. So when they're running through the obstacle course, it's like, yeah, I'm running through the obstacle course with them. I'm doing things, I'm leading them and encouraging them and showing them, that how to do this. So that is, like I said, as a drill sergeant, I saw that firsthand because let's say me and you are partners and we're drill sergeants together. And after about a year goes by, you're like, dude, I'm tired of like crawling in the mud and some of this stuff, right? Well, I continue to do it and you don't do it. Those soldiers were training, they don't know you used to do it, and they don't know you're a badass dude, and they don't know that, right? Even if your back's hurting a little bit or you got some kind of excuse, they don't know that. They've never seen it. So you still need to carry that forward. And I look at that as a really tangible analogy of like, even, where I am now. Yeah, like I was a Green Beret and I have these things and these accolades and stuff I did in the Army. But, if I don't continue to be that same person and with that same drive and that same passion and goals in life, whatever I'm doing, then it's like, well, that's just a way to get my foot in the door, right? It doesn't matter. If I'm just a shitty person now, I'm just a shitty person, man,
Isn't that the friggin' truth, man? Yeah, that little extra work every single day. So did you have somebody when you got started out that kind of set that example? And I mean, you had it from your dad and your grandpa and where you grew up, but was there somebody specific when you started your career in the Army that you kind of soaked that
Yeah, yeah,
information up from, that style from?
yeah, for sure. I mean, to be honest, my drill sergeant was probably the most influential person over me through my first half of the Army. And it wasn't that I stayed in contact with her or anything. It was just the way he led and the way he was when I was there. He was like the epitome of a soldier. It's like if you look at soldier and there's pictures in the dictionary, it was like he was standing there. He was this, you know, um, big black jack dude from Alabama, big country dude. And, you know, he resonated a lot with me because we kind of had a lot of the same almost backgrounds, where a lot of people don't realize a lot of the guys that are from the South, they're really are hunting, fishing, backwoods guys. And a lot of people, think like, oh, black guys don't do that. And it's like, have you ever met a guy from Georgia?
Yeah, from the South. Yeah.
Louisiana or something, Alabama. Um, but they also have like a healthy mix of being in the city and kind of in that same environment. So me coming from a very like ghetto environment that was very brash, very in your face, and that, but also having this kind of country background and wanting to be in the mountains and knowing hunting all the time still and doing those things. I think that resonated with me because he had a very similar kind of a background. And just his leadership style, just like I said, he led from the front. He always showed examples. And he did a lot to be more like a disappointed dad after you get through a certain, after a few weeks, instead of just the yelling, it's more the disappointment type of thing. And I can see that shift in his leadership during that. And that kind of resonated with me. And I've always tried to kind of carry that forward, and be and lead in that way where like, yes, I do need to be intimidating and threatening to where your dad is, and those kind of things. But then it turns into like, no, I want to be like him. And I'm trying to make him proud of me in a sense, if that kind of analogy works.
He literally he made it your idea to do better. He was like, "Really, dude? I thought I had you trained up better. We've been at this for 3 weeks, man. Come on, grade 2, page
Exactly.
1." And then you're like, "Oh shit, yeah, I should be
Yeah.
running that lap faster or whatever." That's freaking smart.
Yeah. So that was very influential over me. And then when I was a drill sergeant, I just knew I wanted to do more. I just was like, I'm not going back to the regular Army. I had been a squad leader. I was a platoon sergeant as a drill sergeant. And I was just kind of like, I'm about to rank out of this, where I'm actually around these soldiers like this, can really lead them and guide them. And basically the next, chapter of my life was going to be paperwork and administration and being in charge. And, and I didn't want to be anybody's sergeant major.
Boring.
I don't care about I don't care about their stupid rules that don't make sense, So I've always been the guy that wasn't scared to push back on leadership either when I thought something was dumb. And I knew that I was going to be at a position with my rank that I was no longer going to be able to do that and continue to make rank or get promoted in that way. So I actually, and one of my mentors, a battalion sergeant major of mine at the time. He was just like, "Hey man, do you want to get promoted? Or do you want to have fun?" And I'd already made E7 in under 10 years, like super fast. So I had 13 years left or 12 years left to, you know, where I was going to be a senior guy. And I was like, I want to have fun, man. And he was like, well, then chase it, go to special forces. So I kind of launched that special forces path with two really hard back-to-back courses that the Army has. One is Sapper School, Sapper Leader course, and it's basically a shorter version of Ranger School. It's patrolling based with heavy into maritime operations as well as mountaineering operations, with all of it with an emphasis on demolitions and sabotage. So you're learning how to become a demolitions expert. The guy who blew up Oklahoma City was a sapper. So when you're done there, you get put on the watch list now, and you get because of old shithead. But it's a really tough school. And then right after that, I went to Ranger School. And again, it was just being around all these dudes. And I think I underestimated myself for a long time when I was in the Army, man, and I always say this, like the badges I wore, I earned, and the tabs I earned, and the training I went through, if I would have saw that version of me, when I was 25 versus 35, I'd be like, there's no way that's me, so I underestimated myself for a while. And then I just, went all in and was like, you know what? I just looked at it from all these courses that I was going to, from Sapper School to Ranger School in the beginning to on to Special Forces selection. There's only one way out of here, and that's either with the tab on my shoulder and a body bag. And I never made a plan B. I never made well, if I don't make it, I can go back to my unit. I'm still squared away. I'm still a stud or whatever. It was just like, there was zero plan B. My plan A was, I'm going to be a sapper. And then now I'm going to be a Ranger. And when I went to Special Force selection, it was like, I'm going to be a Green Beret. Like, there's no plan B for me.
Had no choice but to say yes, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. So just being able to push that. I've always really enjoyed that, that mindset, that piece. Special forces, you walk a really long ways with a lot on your back. Most of the time, that's really our specialty, is navigation and carrying heavy shit. If I was to say what, boils down to, what do you guys do? We are professionals and experts at unconventional warfare. And how we get there is we usually walk there with all of our shit. So that's what most of the training is, is just so much walking. And it's been such a mental thing for me, and where I really got into enjoying doing really hard things and long runs, things like that. I just love being out in nature, just me and the creator. I can just, and I'm putting miles on. You're in your own head because it sucks and it hurts. And there's a lot to me that goes with mental toughness when it comes to doing something that's hard for a really long time, and all workouts are all things that are hard, or endeavors for sure. But in particular, just that, where it just doesn't stop, where it's like 12, 24 hours, days long, where you're just going. It really puts you in a deficit mentally, where you really have to, it's just you and the creator, and if you don't believe in him, then it's just you. So, and then that's where all those thoughts creep in, and plan B starts to creep in and make more sense, and all those types of things for giving up on yourself, on your goal.
Yeah, I feel like the mentality behind it, because you would already be obviously extremely mentally tough getting to that point, and then they just 10x it, and you're really gridlocked in your own brain. Man, I can't even imagine that, because I'm thinking about like hard things that I gotta do and struggle with and are in my own head, and you can always remember that somebody else has it worse. And
Oh
like
yeah.
even right now, as we're sitting here talking, there is somebody who is aspiring to be a Green Beret, going through the shit right now, and is just holding on by a thread mentally.
Yeah,
Did you
absolutely.
ever reach a break point to where you're like, man, I'm freaking done with this army shit?
No, no,
Not once, eh?
no, man. My grandpa always used to say it, because he was just, by the time I was around, my grandpa had already retired from full-time gigs. And he was just a a horseman and a pickup man, and just had fun. He just day working, and he just made his kind of retirement money by flipping horse, making good bridle horses and selling good bridle horses, and just had fun at our town rodeo. My grandfather lived in Ennis, Montana, in the Madison Valley, and all those old cowboys. I mean, even guys like Buck Bannerman and stuff. They know my grandpa. They know he was originally from San Diego. His dad, my great grandfather, was a buckaroo on the Tejon Ranch, and my great grandmother, his mother, is Hancock. She moved from Oklahoma when she was 17 and was working out there, and bringing her uncles and her dad's horses out to California. So I have a long line of that vaquero California style buckaroo from my grandfather. And he took that up into Montana in like the 1960s. But when I was around, my grandpa was just this badass cowboy, this cool dude who played guitar and rode horses and did, went hunting and stuff like that. So I that was like a very heavy influence on me, to be able to look at those things. And then and this guy, we talk about mental toughness and those type of things and just persevering through life. He lied about his age, tried to join the war because his older brothers did, and he ended up finally getting into the Navy, and he was 15 years old. So at 16 years old, he's landing on amphibious assault boats in the South Pacific for Marines and during Operation Cartwheel.
15.
Yeah, so it's pretty nuts, to see that, and I think that without that kind of mentality and that upbringing around me, there's no way I could have had that same mindset that I do, or that I did then, or when I was going through all that training, all the hard shit, or even when I do now, just doing things.
Man, and then at the end of the day, this is what reaffirms me. Some people are just born with it. Sometimes
Yeah.
it is just in your blood to be able to endure, persevere, and just keep moving forward no matter what, who's going to carry the boats. I think it's just bred into you. Because at
I
15,
think so.
I was just trying to find a ride to the team roping jackpot because mom and dad couldn't take me.
Yeah. No,
What
and
a-
I just think it is generational. I think I've served with a lot of great guys who didn't have great upbringings or good parents or a father figure. So I'm not saying that it can't happen. All walks of life can definitely persevere through that. But I do think that warrior mindset and that warrior mentality, to be able to some people are just born with it, type of thing. You see that a lot in rodeo. These old guys, generations of bronco riders and bull riders and bullfighters and whatever, right? And it's just, you're never around any weakness, is what I think it is. So when you're around weakness all the time, if you're a mama's boy, you're raised by mom, and there's no dad around, you can figure that out. You can find some mentorship and some development there, or create it on your own, just out of how hard life is. But what I've also found to be, and what I really try to do with the War Party movement is really preach this, is like, you've got to raise warriors, and especially in today's society and the way things are, so when I look back at that generation, like my grandfathers that were in World War II and Korea, and that generation of just these really, really hard dudes, they just weren't around a bunch of weakness, and I think that's kind of one of the downsides of what we have in society now, is life's very easy at this moment, regardless of what we bitch about and complain about and the silly things. For the overwhelming majority of people, life is very easy. And, we're just weak. We're just around too much pussy shit, and it turns you into a pussy,
Dude, amen to that. It's been very, very funny. Like when I go into downtowns to do comedy, walking on frickin' eggshell stages, man. I've walked so many crowds just for telling jokes that are a little bit off cuff, a little raw. Like, so yeah, you look back on those days of, yeah, somebody lied about their age to go fight for their country, landed on the beaches in just a hailstorm of lead, and now people land on resort beaches. Like,
Yeah.
that's nuts. But I do got a question about like all your training, because when I think back, when I went and got my dive master certification, we did a couple drills that I would do them every day. I loved them so much. I thought it was an absolute blast. Um, what were some of those training that you did that you were like, dude, I could do this all day, every day, that was a part of your process?
Um, I mean, once I think like during the special forces course. So what the way it breaks down for us in special forces is you go through special forces assessment and selection, and I believe it's like 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks or something. Um, so once you make it through that program or make it through there, I think I started with like 450 some guys and like 80 some of us got selected. So it's very tough, to get through all that. And then you start the Special Forces qualification course, which we call the Q course. And that's about a year to 2 years of a pipeline, depending on what your job is going to be. If you're a medic, you stay longer just because they go through so much training through that. It's called the 18 Delta program. So the Special Forces medics go through a longer course. The rest of us don't go through as many courses that long. I was an 18 Echo communications. Uh, so you go through these different things. That is just like training. You're just kind of like, I'm not saying you're not trying to get it behind you. You're learning and you're absorbing those things. Um, and then you go to another part of it. So you go through SUT, which is small unit tactics, which is like Ranger School. So for me, coming from this background where I was just patrolling, and it's called patrolling. So I mean, basically just living out of a backpack in the woods, patrolling, learning how to do raids and ambushes and these different tactics. I had done that so much that I was able to really help other guys and facilitate things. So it wasn't that I didn't learn there because always learn from every rep, but I wasn't really in student mode as per se a lot in the Q course. Definitely,
Okay.
SEER school. So you go through survival, escape, resistance, and evasion, and it's basically you learn to how to be tortured and beat and live and answer the questions the right way, and you also learn how to survive in the wilderness. And they give you a lot of cool skills that it's crazy because we can't really talk about a lot of that. But they give you a bunch of skill sets in case you are captured by the enemy, and then you actually go through a process where you're captured, and they do some torturing techniques, some interviewing techniques to you, and you go through that process. So really rad school, but it sucks to get slapped around, beat up all the time, and those kind of fun things, and live in a little box for a week. Um, and then you graduate. So, well, you go through, just that's not exactly how the course goes, but just trying to give you some of the key points in the course. You go through a big culminant event and then you graduate. So it wasn't that I was trying to push those things behind me, get past them. While I was there, yes, I'm learning, I'm engaging, and there are points there that I'm going to take away for the rest of my life and training I'm going to need, especially like SEER school. But once you get done with that, then that's where the fun really starts because now you're a Green Beret, you go to your team. Being a team guy on a team is like the best job in the planet. You get paid a lot of money to jump out of airplanes and shoot bad guys in the face, and that's what you're training to do. So all the training we do is as realistic as possible. So for me, that one training event or the things that we always did, my favorite is CQB, like close quarters combat. Where we're in and out of buildings, clearing buildings. That's my jam. I like shooting people really close, the snipers and all the guys that can have that other crap. I really enjoyed that, and I also went through schools where I was the guy on the ground talking to the pilots in the sky, dropping bombs and coordinating fires and doing that. So that was really, really fun to me as well. So I would say, all the shooting schools that we went to, I can do that all day. And then the same, talking to pilots, dropping bombs and or maneuvering fires from artillery and mortars. Like I could do that all day. It's so fun.
Man, that is what a friggin' what a profession to be in, dude. That is wild. And
Yeah.
I can't help but think, like with your native background, dude, that close quarter combat, again, that's got to be in your blood. Would that not be like that's the warrior thing right there? Is
Yeah, I
to
think. Yeah, no, I think that. I try to tell this to everybody. You know, I think the coolest thing about North America in general, when you look at um, the Native community, they serve at a higher population than any other race, any other demographic, Canada and the United States. And those guys have this lineage. When you look back at through history, whether World War I, World War II, Vietnam, like there's always these badass Indian dudes in there raising hell, right? In these units, all of our tactics and everything that we use actually they come from that. The first recognized what we call special forces was during King Philip's War, and it was when the Mohawk and the Mohican trained with and banded with the Pilgrims to fight against the Wampanoag, and they used skulking techniques, and they taught that to the white people, and that was basically the first special forces unit. And nobody else was really understood that kind of unconventional warfare, those guerrilla tactics. Even, it's why we did so much damage on the Wampanoag too, because they didn't fight in the same manner the Mohawk and the Mohican did. So you kind of fast forward that, and so I'm Apache, muscular Apache, and the cross arrows on the special forces, those are Apache arrows. There's a lot of native history into special forces in general. The first special forces unit was actually out of Fort Harrison, Montana, and it was 40% paratroopers from Canada and 60% cowboys, lumberjacks, rednecks, guys about to go to jail from America. And they blended together and they created the first special services. And those guys were just known all over Europe. They left death cards on the Nazis, and the movie Inglourious Basterds is loosely based off a lot of the characters and guys from that unit from the Devil's Brigade. There was a lot of Indians in that as well. Big native influence from Canada as well on the paratrooper side, as well as the Army side from from America. So I just love history so much that I kind of went down this rabbit hole. But when you look at it, yes, in North America, 150 years ago, we had these badass warriors that we basically we fought an incursion of the armies pushing westward. Ultimately, yes, the natives lost that. A lot of them were inculcated or tried to be inculcated into the communities, or put on reservations and reserves. Not going to go into that. I don't want to put that's. But with that, what I always take away, especially as being Apache, and every tribe's different, everybody's different, but we were warriors. We fought to the end. And when you look at what those guys did, whatever band, all these different fights you can look at with the Army. I mean, the Army really got their ass whooped for a really long time by very little, and it shows that tactics and professionalism and these skills that these guys have trained their entire life to do really paid off more than trying to get, taking someone where they're not from and bringing them here to fight in a war that I don't even know if they really care about, which is a lot of similarities to a lot of guys going off to combat now, in different places around the world. But everyone, regardless of your race, you all come from a warrior culture and a warring background at some point. For me, I only have to look back, like I said, 150 years ago, we're riding horses, doing what we're doing against the cavalry, all the way through my grandfathers. And somebody else, like my wife is Scandinavian. So it's like, she goes back a couple hundred years and there's the Vikings, right? Or if you're German, it's like, yeah, you go how far back? 500 years, you have the barbarians and the Germans. Like there's a lot of, everyone comes from the earth, from the creator, from this, and everyone had to fight and be protecting. But for some reason, we as Americans of if you're white in America, we just want you to be white. We don't want you to know that you're Polish and understand Polish history and everything the Polish people went through, even though you're 2 generations removed from being Polish or whatever. And that, I think, helps kind of degrade the warrior culture in our society in general. The American culture is really cool. I mean, it's amazing. My favorite part about being in the Army was all walks of life, colors, creeds, religions, you name it, just being the same person, doing the same thing. And I think that when you see that work, how efficient it is, and you see that in pockets of business or other sports or whatever it is in America, to me, that's what's super cool. I hate all the woke shit, especially for you guys in Canada. It's like Jesus Christ,
We're real
um,
bad.
super bad. But I think when people start to realize that, like, hey, we do come from this. We do have it is in my blood. So I like that you said that. Yeah, it's in your blood, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, I do like to show people how it can. It's basically on all of us if you're willing to kind of dig in and look at that and embrace your ancestors and the trials and tribulations of all these people that came before you to make you.
Well, I think one thing that's really cool to point out too is like you knew at a young age that you had that warrior in you and you were shown by example what you can do with that balled up energy inside you, and you found an avenue for it and you exhausted that
Yeah,
avenue.
absolutely,
And we see people who have that warrior mentality inside them and it gets put towards something that is harmful, and they don't
absolutely,
find that avenue to get it out in a positive manner. And that really sucks because there's
yeah,
a ton of them as well. But then you finished up with the army and now you got to do something with that ball of energy. And I saw something that
yeah,
you're into SkiMo. I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
even know if I
SkiMo
know what
racing.
SkiMo is.
Yeah. So, my last 4 years in the Army, I served in 10th Special Forces Group in Colorado. So before that, I was in 3rd Special Forces Group out in North Carolina, and I got a job opportunity to move out there and kind of retire out of Colorado. And when I got there, um, even though I was a kid in Montana, we're broke. My dad was a broke ass cowboy. I didn't go skiing. So I learned to ski, and of course it's special forces, so they bring out like the best. So I skied with the Olympic team. Never don't even know how to put boots on, and there's some girl that's got like 2 silver medals in the Olympics, like teaching me how to ski.
No way.
Um, which is really cool. So I learned to ski, and then got into that, and then about a year later, I became a team sergeant of a mountain team. So we specialize in mountaineering operations, and we were in charge of countering Russian aggression above the Arctic Circle. So we specialize in Arctic warfare. So immediately I had, upon taking that job, all of our training stuff is either in like Alaska. We've done a bunch of stuff up in Prudhoe Bay and Barrow, and up north of the North Slope and the Brooks Range, climbing the Brooks Range, skiing the Brooks Range, things like that, doing all of our operations. And then all our deployments were in support of Sweden, Finland, Norway to patrol the border and train with those guys. So I actually went through Swedish Ranger School, which is really dope, in the winter with my guys. Badass Arctic course. So anyway, that really got me started towards, what I'm going to do. The last year I retired, a buddy of mine was like, "Hey man, you want to raise some money for Green Beret Foundation, and we'll do this race." I'm like, "Well, what's this race?" It's the biggest backcountry ski race in North America. It's called the Grand Traverse. It's 40 miles, starts at midnight. The fastest dudes in the world are there, and basically you're doing an ultra marathon on skis. You use skins. They call them skins, so they go on the bottom of your skis. It's like if you pet your dog or your horse and you run your hand one way, if you run it back the other way, it's rough.
Yeah.
So that they originally used horse hair and seal hair, so they call them skins. So it allows your ski to slide forward, not backwards. And then you rip those off and you ski down the steep stuff, or the long stuff. Yeah, that's how I started. I did it as a fundraiser, and then this is my first year that I haven't done it since 2019. By no means am I like super fast or even I'm barely competitive. But I'm also probably the biggest dude out there. I'm like, no one else is over 200 pounds. And like, it's always like, oh, everyone's like 6'3", like 150-pound ultra runners and, pro skiers. So it's a really cool thing. And that's kind of how I got into it. This year, I mean, it's just a lot of time to train, a lot of time away from the family. And then I also broke my ankle in September, got in an elk hunt. So I haven't been able to run and really put on the cardio stuff that I'd like to. So
Those
it's a
ankles,
great
man,
picture.
they can be touchy.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
what ski mountaineering is. It's SkiMo is short for ski mountaineering.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Huh, that's wild, man. Yeah, I'm a snowboarder, so anything to do with skiing and ski boots, I'm out on, dude. Um, what else did I have here for you? Yes, I read in a little write-up deal that you talked about being on a horse is the best therapy, and I couldn't agree more with that. And this is where I kind of want to pivot into War Party a little bit more.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Like, where do you find the
Yeah.
people to help? What does that process look like?
Yeah. I think I'll kind of start with my own journey in that, and that'll definitely caveat into War Party. I knew that retiring from the Army, I was going to have to reinvent myself, and I wasn't going to be a Green Beret anymore. I wasn't going to be the guy that everybody knew in the hallway. I was just going to be a guy at the grocery store, just like everybody else, you know? And I wanted to find, like, I knew that I needed challenges and adventure and something to do. What's really easy for guys in my background is to get contracting jobs, you know, overseas paramilitary stuff, you know. And I jumped on one that was anti-human trafficking. I retired January 2020. So COVID hit like right after, you know, we get rolling to shut everything down. And then I was really just thinking, like, dude, I want to do this for myself. Like, or excuse me, I want to do this for Americans and people, like our own people. And then really looking at, you know, the MMIW issues and how many Native women go missing and murdered every year. And, you know, there's no help. You know, it's just this crazy amount of crap that's going on in the Native community in, you know, in United States and in Canada. And I was like, well, shit, I can help do something. You know, I know how to do search and rescue stuff. I know how to do reconnaissance. And so what I saw was it's on social media. Again, with the social media, I didn't start it until I got back from that trip and was retired. And I just started seeing these things, and I just would reach out to families and say, hey, here's my background, my skill set. You know, can I help you? And I started just doing, you know, search and rescue efforts or assisting families any way I could. And then War Party movement was born out of that. Really, it's just a t-shirt company at first, and there's just ways to help me pay for, you know, to get involved in a Native community and help them any way I could. The veterans have been huge with that. You know, all my special operations buddies are the first ones I can call up and say, even if I can't make it, I'll say, hey, you know, I got a lady down in Pueblo, you know, in New Mexico that this is what's going on. They want some help. Well, are you willing to go out there for me? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. You know, and they link up with the family and assist them any way they can. So that's really how it started. And then as far as like at the same exact time while I'm telling you this story, man, I rode motorcycles my whole time I was in the Army, and I mean, I pretty much always dressed exactly the same. My grandpas have always been my heroes, you know, and they just wore Levi 501s and pearl snap shirts or like Pendletons, and
Studs.
yeah, and you know, of course, me going to Vegas, it was like that kind of that same like cholo vibe, like it just matched, you know. It was like I just wearing Chuck Taylors and a flannel and some 501s, you know. So everything I've always kind of had that, like a lot of my grandfathers in me, even just like I said, just sounds kind of cheesy, but like even in the way I dress, you know, like there's a reason why I cuffed my pants. You know, people would slap you, still out of Cowboys, you know, give me shit for cuffing my pants. And the reason why I do it is my grandfather told me a story about his dad, and he said that all the buckaroos and the vaqueros on the Tajon Ranch, he said that you know on the big outfits, all the guys on the wagons, you know the single ones from the married ones, because the single guys just bought a new pair of Levi's every month when they got paid, and they go into town and they're too big, so they buy them because they shrink to fit, so they got big cuffs in them. And then what they do is at the end of it, they never wash their jeans. I mean, their jeans could stand up in the corner and how greasy and dirty and bloody they were. So the single guys would go home on the weekends to mama the married guys would go home to mama, and the single guys would go into town. So the single guys were like, you can have these jeans, you know? So all the married guys would wear faded jeans that fit, and all the single guys, you could tell them by the big cuffs in their pants. And for me, it was just kind of a way to like, and my grandpa, even though he was married and whatever, like he rocked the big cuff, and it was just the buckaroo. It was what they did on on his wagon where he
That's
worked.
that's a badass old cowboy story.
Yeah. So I do it, you know, I buy longer pants just because my grandpa did it. So, and all my life as a kid, you know, my mom always bought me longer pants. And then, you know, when I first got them, they were new and they looked cool. They were cuffed. And then the older, you know, the more I grew or they shrunk, you know, then they got faded and weren't cuffed. So I just kind of share that because it's part of like, I do think it's very important for veterans to really figure out what's next, what's the next chapter of their life. And I knew that going in. I did have some good mentors, some buddies of mine that retired. Suicide's so crazy. The guy that replaced me, he killed himself about 6 months after, he replaced me. And it's just, been impacted by suicide with my friends and people I knew and served with, that I knew that my own mental health was going to be a struggle, that I wanted to try to do everything I could to get on top of it and continue to have drive and motivation the same way I did, putting on my uniform. My grandfathers and my dad were big believers in, if you never work a day in your life, if you love what you're doing. So I wanted to continue to do that into retirement, but also have a way to spend time with my kids and be more of a dad. In special operations, the guys are gone an average of 280 days a year.
Whoa.
So, and that's not to include days that you're training locally and you come back every night. So leaving at 4 a.m, coming home at midnight type stuff or whatever. You're not home a lot. So at the same time, back to the story of War Party. I was like, man, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be a cowboy. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm willing to just be the new guy. And that was one of my favorite things was, especially after being in charge for so much and making so many decisions and leading these guys. My favorite thing was I've been blessed with so many amazing mentors. 3 in particular that have really, really molded me. Micah, my Waisaka, she's like a sister to me. Really, she's the one who taught me horsemanship and just how to ride in general, and read cows, and just little things. And I got a chance to go down and cowboy down in Alpine, Texas, for a while, and work down there, and just those old cowboys, just showing you the right way, nice and easy, nice and slow, and learning stockmanship from the very beginning. It was so cool to just keep my mouth shut and just say, yes, sir. It's like, all I got to do is say, yes, sir, try hard. Mm-hmm. And they, even if I messed up, it was, I got my butt chewed or whatever, or, hey, you got to do it this way. Yes, sir. And it was easy. And I love that new guy feeling of starting over. I think that it's so important in people's lives to always have these goals or stopping points where you've got to do something you are not an expert at, you're not good at. It's intimidating, it's scary, but it does so much for you as far as checking your own ego, relying back to the mental health stuff we talked about before. It's just you, right? You're relying on yourself and something new to practice. So I joke around. I say, I'm not a real cowboy. I'm like a National Guard cowboy. I do it 2 weeks in 2 weeks in the summer, 1 week in a month. No, I'm getting to the point now, where I've been day work on some good places and trying to be an asset where I can be, and practicing all the time. I think for you, this more than anybody, everybody can see you out there doing what you do in the arena and crushing it, but they don't see that you're up, throwing 400 or 500 loops a day, up in the morning, up when it's cold. You professionals practice those things and really do that. And I think that's something that is very undervalued with all these people want to be a cowboy or want to be in the Western world. It's like, hey man, these guys have been doing it their whole life, so don't get discouraged. You got to practice hard. So I set that up to get back to War Party. Back to the horses, this whole journey of mine since I retired the last 4 years has really just try to be humble and be a student of it and embrace it. And the coolest thing is, from the very first time that I worked for, how I got into really getting a cowboy job was I went through an all veteran guide course out of DuBois, Wyoming. So we learned to pack in the Wind Rivers. My mentors there, just amazing people, the Stetter family. So learning to pack from these experts in this crazy, crazy terrain. That was every day whether we were just with just a little ride, or we're taking clients in, or we're doing or on a mission, or an op, whatever you want to call it. When I felt this feeling the first time I did it, when my right foot hit the stirrup, when I stepped over that horse, I felt like I was around time 200 years. Mm-hmm. I didn't care about my cell phone in my pocket. I didn't care about like any like whatever was going on in normal life. It was just like me, and I'm trying to connect with this horse and be a good teammate and accomplish a task and learn. And it literally just felt like I was like, it was 200 years ago that I was doing it, even if I see a car driving in the distance or whatever. So I think that feeling was so impactful for me. And it's something that why we wanted War Party Movement to have a shift and try to bring in horses into people's lives and some of these ladies' lives. And if it's helped me and so many other people, give them purpose and direction and some comfort, then I think it's a cool way to build warrior skills in ladies, without them really even thinking that they're developing their own warrior skills in a sense. So like even just like to see Tiger like roping the way she is now and like growing, and it's like that is such a story and such, like I said, like a warrior's path. No one's seeing her up at night roping and practicing and doing these things, and that is a way. The horse is a way to really embody that warrior spirit, connect to nature, connect to the creator, and then as you progress, you're progressing towards a goal, whether it's to come day work with me, somewhere in Wyoming, 11 bar one or the padlock or something, or to rope in the arena, right? You're progressing towards something. And when you accomplish those things, it's a very tangible way for them to feel these really cool wins, even if it's not a giant task, even if it's just moving a couple cows or, hey, do you want to sort? You're like, oh shit, I've never sorted before. No, you got it. And or sort off a couple of cows, and then they're like, okay, all right, next, yeah, cool. And they don't have to do it long. Or Brandon, they catch a couple calves and for their first time or whatever. I mean, to see the way those girls that exuberant confidence in that nervous state of never done it before, eyes wide open when they're done with it. It's like, yeah, it's freaking cool.
Man, I love that so much. I couldn't have said it any better because I'm a firm believer in that. Horses are the best energy recyclers. If you're having a bad day, go hug your horse, go pet a horse, go just ride a horse and breathe and walk. And then talking about like putting confidence in these women that you're helping, man, the smallest wins of like, maybe last week she couldn't get the saddle thrown up on her own. This week she can. So now she's just strengthened her mind and she's strengthened her body. Maybe the first time she picked up a hoof to clean it out, that horse pulled that hoof away. The next week, that doesn't happen anymore. And if they can start to see those small wins, like you said, next time when you ask them, hey, do you want to sort? Their initial reaction isn't, no, I don't know how to do that. It's, sure, we'll figure this out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, super cool. And we've done with War Party Ranch, where we are now, is we really kind of gone into a clinic model, and as well as kind of partnered that with War Party Movement's clinics as well. So War Party Movement is not a nonprofit. It is an LLC. I have a new business partner. He's a former Green Beret. We served together in 3rd Special Forces Group, and then he worked for the agency for a long time. And we're done. We're both ready to do that, ready to be done with that life. So what we've taken on is we've developed training courses, that are very practical training courses that anybody can take at any level, and then we have progressions to those. Obviously, people want to train with guys with our background, but we're not here to be the cool guys. We really want to train people correctly and give them skills and tools in their toolbox to be able to protect their families and protect our loved ones and make the right decisions in crazy situations. And ultimately, we want you to avoid all of those situations if possible, Mm-hmm. And then the way we kind of we're giving back on the War Party Movement side is we offer scholarships to War Party Ranch for all the clinics that we teach. So we have a Pistol 1 and a Pistol 2 course right now, and that's basically what we're focusing on. So anytime we run one of those courses, War Party Ranch gets to send 3 to 5 ladies, depending on how big the class size is, for free. So that and then the War Party Ranch clinic model is they are everything that's on our mission statement, from hunting to the cowboy stuff to self-defense, shooting. We have a board member that's kind of an expert in one of those fields, and then we're teaching clinics that are in each one of those specialties. So we're going to have a hunting clinic coming up this spring, where we'll bring ladies in for a long weekend, and we'll teach them everything from how to get your tags to zeroing your rifle, how to choose a rifle, what to do, shoot your bow, all those things. To we'll kill a goat and keep some goats out and teach them how to harvest their meat, and then we'll barbecue the animal up. So really, really cool opportunities in this clinic model. And then, the long term would be ultimately if we could run some program, maybe from spring to summer, some kind of horsemanship, cowgirl boot camp type of program. We'd really like to be able to do that. And obviously that takes a lot of funding, a lot of money, but right now we're able to give back in some pretty cool ways, some pretty unique ways, just by teaching those courses and having those clinics available to ladies. We also have a pretty good, robust sponsorship program, which is cool. We've got a couple ranch bronc riders that we sponsor. Some native ladies are out crushing it on ranch broncs. We also just worked with a young lady with the Wagon Burner Stunts, and they're a native community that teaches stunts to how to get in the movies. And it's super cool because when the students leave, they get a video of them that they can turn in for their to try to get gigs and jobs. And really amazing to see, to support that. And the young lady we were able to send was, beyond blessed to be there. So that was really cool. And just trying to do it, one person at a time, and then we still have a heavy footprint in the Native community. Everything we do is open to everyone. But what we try to do first is really look at wherever we're hosting a clinic or even providing one specifically for Native women on the reservation or close to the reservation. We really try to bring as many Native women as we can to help facilitate that and really get back to them. And then Naren and myself on the War Party movement side, something that we're developing and we've done is we give free training to law enforcement and tribal law enforcement. So, cops just want to shoot with us for a day, or we're actually working some stuff up in Oregon, up in Pendleton, to go up to the res and try to put their guys through some good training. So, we're growing. It's been a slow road, but I'm glad I've taken it slow. Just trying to pick and choose the right people and work with the right folks. And then also, what's the best way we can influence the community, and not trying to be Instagram famous or give a shit about what we post and the victories. The hardest thing for us and War Party is to tell the story. It's not our story to tell. So that's been our biggest, I want to say hurdle because I want to use the right words, but, if you don't market, you don't, everyone wants to see the story, the feel good, the this, the that. And that's hard. We're not going to force any of the ladies to, make a video or say anything or that kind of stuff. So, we're getting there, and we found some cool ways to highlight some of these amazing ladies and what they're doing. So I think that our progression it's right on pace where we want to be at, and we've got some really cool things coming up.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys got a lot of really good things going on right now. And yeah, in terms of like growth and whatnot, your intentions are pure, and you have the perseverance and the mentality to just keep everything moving forward and doing a good job. And I'm really excited to see where it goes and how much it grows. But I won't take up any more of your time. We've been about an hour here. I really appreciate
no
you
worries,
hopping
brother.
on. And we hope you stay warm
Yeah,
over
no,
there
it's
in
not
cold
bad.
Colorado.
Yeah, sun's out, so we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And then I know you got some merch. I got
Yeah,
one of your hoodies, the
heck
Don't
yeah.
Be a
I love
Puto.
it.
It's so
Love it. I
good.
love it. It's so stupid. When people wear it, I'm just like, oh man, but it's funny and hilarious. I'm actually wearing a punchy one now. This one
Yeah.
is for War Party Ranch. So yeah, so on the website on warpartymovement.com, there's merchandise there. We actually have some really cool things coming out. We're also stepping into kind of tools, if you will. I've got some knives that are about to drop.
Oh, sweet.
Some like some of the items that we use in our courses, and as we start developing media towards that. But like we use a lot of flashlights. We have like finger loops that we develop for flashlights, and small kind of EDC things that I think everybody should have on them. And that the reason for that is the most likely thing that's going to happen to you, you're going to get in some altercation where you have your pockets. You're not going to be running around with a rifle and all this other stuff, you know. So really trying to enforce that. But yeah, we have t-shirts and apparel. All that money goes directly towards those clinics and things I was telling you about and help fund these ladies. And then we got some knives dropping soon, and then we're really excited about that. And yeah, you can go get you a "Don't Be a Puto" shirt and offend everyone or make people laugh. So
it's been all smiles when I wear that bad boy.
I've never had anybody say anything to me. I even have had like old Mexican grandmas like just cry laughing and like want to give me a hug, and it's super funny.
If the old Mexican ladies love it, you're good, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The abuelas love it. We're in, dude. We're in.
Amen to that. Awesome, brother. Well, appreciate you hopping on. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I'm excited for when we actually get to meet in person and have a beer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Take it easy, brother.
Yeah, you too. We'll chat later. And that was Jeremiah Wilber, the 22-year veteran serving with the Army. Man, what a path to walk. I mean, just yeah, kind of bred to go that route between his grandfathers and his father. Man, I can't imagine some of the stories that those old boys would have had serving in Korea, serving in the world wars. Incredible. Even Jeremiah, I mean, you could probably get a few more stories out of him if you had a beer with him, but no, very happy I was able to hop on with him, and now he's been able to take his training and his career in the military, put it to good use afterwards, giving people the skills to keep themselves and their families safe and out of harm's way. And so if you guys want to go check out the merch, I swear to God, the Don't Be a Puto hoodie is one of my go-tos. Big, fluffy, comfortable, and an awesome graphic. Jeremiah has that awesome mustache, and the graphic has the mustache. So you guys got to go check it out. warpartyranch.org. I do believe that is the website. And stay tuned. Remember, give us a follow. Give us a subscribe on YouTube. You can catch us on Apple, Spotify, wherever else you listen to podcasts. This has been Should Have Been a Cowboy. We'll see you on the next one.